Good evening. I will welcome each one of you who braved the cool weather here on our first day of spring. I would like to call to order the public hearing of the Newport News School Board for Tuesday, March 20th, 2018. On behalf of the members of the school board and our acting superintendent, I welcome each of you here present and those who are watching. Our quorum is present to transact the business of the school division. We will begin tonight's meeting with the pledge to the flag. Mr. Brown, will you lead us in that?
Please stand. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Let's see. So at this time, the board will open its public hearing for the comments regarding the proposed fiscal year 2019 operating budget and the Huntington Middle School rezoning plan. Prior to your comments, a short overview of each item will be presented. The board considers this an opportunity to listen to your comments, and we will consider your concerns during our deliberation. We ask that you comply with our 3-minute tone there. When you see the green light, it will begin when you start. Then you'll see the yellow light signals that you have 30 seconds remaining, and then the red light and the beep, and we ask that you would wrap up your comments. So I thank you for adhering to these guidelines. So the board first will hear public comments on the proposed fiscal year operating budget. Ms. Russo, will you please provide an overview?
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. My pleasure to give you a brief overview of the budget which we presented to the board last week. Starting with revenue, as we did last week, the superintendent's proposed budget is based on revenue of $303.6 million for next year. That's up $6.7 million from this year's budget, or 2.3%. We are still using the governor's budget. You know that the General Assembly finished their work without balancing a budget, so we don't have a General Assembly budget as we normally would at this point in our process. But the governor's budget gave us $6 million more in revenue, and so that's what we're using right now for state revenue. For the city revenue, we're showing an increase of $700,000. That's the amount of debt service reduction that the city will have for the school division for next year, and that's what we're using for our revenue number for next year for the city. We have a small increase in federal revenue, offset by a small decrease in other revenue. So that gives us a total of $6.7 million in new revenue for next year. So looking at what we plan to do with that on the expenditure side of the budget, right now the budget includes a salary increase of 2%. It also has compression adjustments for our teachers and much of our support staff. We have no increases for our health care premiums for the school division or for our employees. And we also have no copay or deductible increases for employees. We were able to do that this year, and we're fortunately able to do that again next year based on our plan's pretty good performance. The state budget included a lower VRS rate, and that saved the school division about $900,000. Unfortunately, the city's pension cost is higher by about $1 million, so those two offset each other pretty much for next year. We also have included in the budget 7 additional ESL teachers to deal with our growing English language learner population. We have 2 additional guidance counselors at the elementary level to deal with our largest elementary school needs, and then also 2 HVAC apprentices to help keep our heating and cooling equipment going until we're able to replace it. The budget also includes a new telephone system. We currently have an 8-year-old voice over IP system. That system enabled us to put classroom phones in. That was the first time we'd had phones in our classrooms, but that equipment is on borrowed time. The support for it ended in December, and we're no longer able to get parts. So we need to replace that. We also plan to replace middle school teacher laptops next year. Our middle school teacher laptops are currently 5 years old. As our elementary teacher laptops, we're going to extend the life of those by another year or 2 by doing some upgrades for them. And also assumed in the budget is the closure of Huntington. Of course, the board hasn't voted on that tonight. We won't vote until next week, so we'll see what happens after your comments this evening. But right now, the budget does assume that Huntington closes, and there are 26 positions that would not be needed. Mr. Ely asked last week, will the people be needed? They will, and so they will have positions in the school division. 62% of our budget is salaries, another 25% is benefits, so a lot of our work is about people. And so we work a lot with salary evaluations. And so this slide we've been showing you for a while to show you where our teacher salaries compare with other districts in the area. And what we've highlighted in yellow are where our teachers are at various levels of experience, starting with 0 years experience and going across the page to 20 years. So you can see that for 5 and 10 years, we're doing okay. But for 15 and 20 years, we still need to do a little work. We did not share this slide with you last week, but I thought it might be helpful. So let me explain how it's laid out. This is really related only to teacher pay. Our teachers are on teacher scales based on their years of experience. The first column in this slide is years of experience. So going from 0 years of experience to 14 in the first half of the slide, the second half goes from 15 to 31 years of experience. So almost all of our teachers will find themselves somewhere on this schedule. And then the next 4 columns show the raises that teachers got for 2015, 2016, 2017, and what's proposed in the 2018-19 budget. And so based on the years of experience. So I thought it would be helpful maybe to do an example. If we look at a teacher who came to Newport News as a new teacher with no previous teaching experience in 2014, they would have had 0 years of experience as we start this slide. And in 2015, they would have had 1 year of experience and would have received a 3.5% raise in that first year. The next year, they'd go up a level of experience. They'd be at 2. Go over 1 column, they'd get 3.7. So you see, follow the highlighting kind of across and down the page. So that teacher in 4 years' time would have gotten increases totaling 12.5% over those 4 years. If you go down the page, you can see that a teacher who had 10 years of experience in 2014, over those 4 years would have gotten 14.9% in raises. So also at the top, the very top row of each slide, or each part of the slide, shows what the general increase was for employees. And so in each of the years except the second year, it was a 2% increase, as we're proposing for next year. So while the general population will receive a 2% increase, you can see what our teachers would receive and what they have received over the past 3 years. So considerably more, I think, than the general increase. So for those 4 years, the general increase was 9%, again, based on what's proposed in next year's budget. And you can see that teachers receive between 12.5% and 14.9% raises. So again, hopefully that's helpful for our teachers as well as for you. About half of our staff teaches, and the other half do a myriad of other things for the school division. We have been also concerned about our competitiveness with pay for other employee groups. These 4 groups, we did some starting pay adjustments this year in this year's budget, 2018's budget. And this just shows you that that was successful in moving us up the scale in terms of competitiveness with other districts. When we showed you this slide last year, we were near the bottom in each of these categories. And so for next year, we'll be doing some experience adjustments for these groups. Last week, Mr. Brown asked, what about some of our other large employee groups? And so this slide shows where we are relative to other school divisions for our bus drivers, bus assistants, and instructional assistants. Those are other large employee groups. So you can see that we're holding our own pretty much with those. So that's really what's in the budget at a pretty high level. This is the schedule of what's ahead of us. You will hopefully approve a budget for us next week. Because by April the 1st, we're required by state law to have a budget to the city, no matter that the state hasn't finished their work. The city does get a little relief in their requirements. Ordinarily, they're required to approve our budget by May the 15th, but if the state has not done their work, the city doesn't have to approve our budget until the state is finished with their budget. So, Mr. Hunter, that's a brief overview of what's in the budget.
Okay, thank you. Before we get started, any comments before we start? Mrs. Simons?
So you mentioned that would that be every year or just the first year?
Well, there are 26 positions, so that would be every year.
Every year.
Well, part of it is utility savings.
Okay, and then the second question is, I'm sure a lot of people who are here today might not have heard about the compression issues before tonight. I wondered if you could explain compression just a little bit, and then also, are we, in this budget, we have some initiatives to fix the compression. Does that start at year 15 or 20? I can't remember how many years of service the compression adjustments are going to be for.
Okay, maybe I should go back to that slide. Let me start first with what is compression. So, and how it started. I wish I had a couple other slides that we'd used before, but I'll try it without it. So no visual, just essentially what happened. During the recession, we were not able to give raises for a couple of years, and then and we did bonuses a couple of years, but no raises. And so there was compression between our steps for teachers. So instead of having, we'd like to have 1.5% between each level of experience, each year of experience. We're not there yet. So what happened was we ended up having no distance between some of those steps. We had 2 or 3 years of experience, particularly at the beginning of the scale, where teachers were making the same thing. A first-year teacher, a second-year teacher, a third-year teacher, all making the same level of pay. So that's the compression we're talking about. And it happened mostly at the beginning of the scale, but then it extended through the entire scale to a little lesser extent. But the compression adjustments, as you can see, are really addressed at every level. So at every step of the scale. It's not just at a higher level. But if you look at, let's look at the first column of raises, 2015 and 16. The general population was going to get 2%, but look at teachers. They ranged between probably 2 points. Well, let's see. The top end of the scale was only getting 2%. You see, from step 19 through 31, got what the general population got. But that year, we tried to address the earlier steps in the scale. All right. So, but that also has some impact on the top of the scale. All right, so you go to the second year. We were doing a 3% raise. So you look at what teacher raises averaged. They started at 3.7 and went up to 5 at the top end of the scale. So everyone got a little adjustment. The top end of the scale got a lot more that year. So it has been an arduous task to figure out how best to do this. We are not done yet. We aren't where we want to be with regard to teacher scales. We're trying to get to 1.5% between every year of experience, and we aren't there yet. So it will take us a while longer to get there. It depends on how much money we have to do it with. So I'm not sure that answers your question, but that's maybe the best I can do tonight.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Well, thank you, Ms. Mary Lou.
Yes, sir.
So, at this time, we're going to be hearing from those who want to comment as it relates to the budget. So as you hear your name, please come forward, introduce yourselves, and we will begin. And the first card I have is Nika Bartlett.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, now, my name is Nanika Bartlett, and I'm here in support of the increase for the teachers. See my red? I have on my red. Okay. I'm coming here tonight to basically encourage anywhere from a 3 to 5% increase. I think anything less than that is uncivilized. I would also like for the teachers to be able to be given a stipend to assist with school supplies. We have to take better care of our teachers. We do not want to continue to lose our teachers. If so, we will have an influx of substitutes that will impact our scores, our SOL scores, that will impact our ability to get accreditation, that also will impact our students' self-esteem. If we don't take care of our teachers, if they feel neglected, they will walk. If they can't pay their bills, they will walk. If they don't feel appreciated, they will walk. And I don't blame them. They have to be able to live their lives and provide for their families. They have to be able to feel appreciated in order to work at their best capacity. I'm a mental health counselor. I know how it affects people when they can't pay their bills. I know how it affects people when they don't feel appreciated. Teachers are our future. They educate our future. We have to respect them. We have to appreciate them. And we have to work to help them get better so that our children can be better. If we want our school system to change, we have to invest in our teachers. If we want our communities to change, we have to invest in our school system. There are plenty of people who are moving out of the city of Newport News and plenty of people who are not willing to purchase real estate in the city of Newport News due to the school system. We have to do better. I am running as a candidate in the North District for school board. I appreciate you all's vote. Remember my name, Nanika Bartlett, May 1st, 2018. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And next we have Tony White.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tony White. I'm the head wrestling coach at Warwick High School, and I come before you as well as parents and other coaches to talk about how we can help these young teens get on a better path quicker through the sport of wrestling. We have addressed this before last year, trying to reinstate middle school wrestling, and we believe it's really going to make a difference. Just a real quick good news story. We had a kid by the name of Rannon Key several years ago who came through. He was a transfer from Nazareth River in 10th grade. And when he got here, he was identified as an at-risk kid. He came from a broken home. They were financially unstable. And he was identified as having a need for special education. We really felt like he could go either way, especially moving him in the middle of the school year and so forth. And so he got here, and Coach Sexton, Stan Sexton, was the football coach at Warwick. I was coaching at Warwick as a wrestling coach, and we pulled him in and started to mentor him. He chose, fortunately, to go the right direction. He took the SAT and several times until he passed it. And we had several coaches. Even my wife volunteered to tutor him with SAT prep. And he passed it, went on to Fork Union to play football. And while he was there, he got noticed by the Morgan State recruiters. He went on to Morgan State with a full ride, became their football captain, and graduated with an art degree. And now he's back in Newport News, and he's a volunteer coach at Warwick High School for wrestling. And just a great story. And now, however, I think we were lucky with Rannon. There's a multitude of kids at the middle school level that aren't going to have the same chances that Rannon had. They're going to make a choice to go the opposite way before anybody got a hold of them. And we don't have these sports, especially like wrestling, which instills such discipline. And it's a minor cost sport. There's not a lot of investment. And we really feel like if we can get that back in the middle school, it'll help out. And then lastly, I would just say these same kids that we're going to get from the middle school, their first introduction to wrestling is at JV. And right now we have one event for JV that's paid for. And we'd like to expand that to 4 to give these JV guys a chance to actually increase their ability to compete at the varsity level. And then lastly, if I can just finish, that we have a policy where the uniforms are only that are used for 10 straight years. I don't know of any other sport that does that. And they're used for 5 years by the varsity. They get a new uniform. Varsity gets a new uniform every 5 years, but the JV gets the old one. So it's stretched, it's ripped, it's faded, it's torn, they're not replaced. And I would just like this board to consider looking at a new policy for uniforms.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Miss Cindy Connell or Connell.
You had it right it the first time. It's Connell.
Okay.
I am Cindy Connell. I'm a third grade teacher at Hilton Elementary and an adjunct at CNU in their teacher preparation program. So I work very closely with pre-service teachers in the city. And I have 3 children in the school system also, 1 at Deer Park Elementary and 2 at Gildersleeve Middle. When I heard Mr. Nichols speak several weeks ago, he said one of his goals as acting superintendent was competitive compensation for teachers. And that's just what I'm here to ask for. I think that right now teacher morale continues to decrease instead of increase, which is not something that I'd like to see personally. Increasing demands are placed upon teachers, and I know that teacher retention is a very serious issue in Newport News, especially, as I said, because I work with pre-service teachers. So I would greatly appreciate the board's consideration for an adequate raise for teachers for the upcoming budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Jasmine Kehoe.
Hello. My name is Jasmine Kehoe. I am a mother of 4 boys, and I wrestled back in high school. I'm here to support wrestling in the middle schools, and one of my boys is actually coming up into 6th grade, so he would be really excited if that was part of his school program. I feel like wrestling's an important sport that instills a lot of different values and principles that last throughout your life. And the earlier that they can get started, the better. There's so many kids that are wrestling in the youth that they just need that extra boost in middle school, I feel like, to really do their best in high school. And let's see, what else was there? I'm not a public speaker, so sorry. Yeah, so I'm just here to support the middle school wrestling, and that female wrestlers do exist, and I am coming back, and I have coached girls, and I was part of the Warriors of Newport News Wrestling Club, and yeah, we coached there for 3 years, and there was plenty of girls there, so I think that giving girls an opportunity to express themselves and how they want to do that is important. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ms. Marcella Barnett. She used to be a former school board member.
Chairman, Co-Chair, Mr. Nichols. I think Helen Keller said it best, and that is the only thing worse than being blind is not having is not sight but no vision. And with Newport News, my concern is that we're always catching up instead of leading, and I think that it's time for us to take the lead in any portion, whether that be salaries, whether that be bringing back more assistance for our teachers. So it's not all about salaries when we deal with the teachers and your budget. It's about all the things that you've taken away and given them more responsibilities, but no assistance. If we continue to take away, it is so difficult to be successful. And successful teachers, no matter what you do, no matter what happens, is the formula for successful students. So, and really having a budget meeting on the 20th when you have to approve the budget by the 27th, turn it in by the 1st, really when you met back in November as a board, the 5% should have been something that should have been put on the board or looked at before you came up with a completed budget. So if you're going to say that you want your teachers and you appreciate your teachers and you want your teachers to be successful, then show it. Stop taking from them, start to give to them, give them the things that make their morale feel better. So don't come in and say that you got their best interests at heart when you don't show that, because they won't believe it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Miss Lisa Surlis Law.
Well, good evening. Yes, my name is Lisa Searles Law. I have a daughter at Woodside High School, and I work at Jefferson Lab, a longtime community partner with Newport News Public Schools. And I want to let you know that there's really great appreciation for your attention to the matter of increasing salaries for teachers. It's evident that you do care. Brian Nichols, thank you for including the 2% increase in your proposed budget, and thank you, board members, for seeing the need and voicing your willingness to approach City Council for additional funds from the state's budget for our teachers. I work in science education at Jefferson Lab, and I have the honor of working with many of our Newport News teachers in our professional development programs. They come to our programs after a full day of work to glean ideas, resources, supplies, and to be the best teachers they can be for their students, for our students. Frequently, I'll visit a table where they're working just to see an out-of-pocket list that they have prepared that they need to purchase to make certain that they have what it takes to do the best at what they do. Support means so much to our teachers. Materials, professional development, opportunities to network with peers, and yes, programs like those offered at Jefferson Lab are essential. But so is reasonable compensation for the jobs they do. You know, we have here in Newport News we're very fortunate because our teachers don't see what they do as a job. They actually see it as a career. They are in it for the long haul and the post-gratification that comes with working with children. In my opinion, teachers are the example of support at its finest. They do it well, as our 93.4% graduation rate indicates. It is promising to see dialogue this year with the City Council. It is a must. It has to continue. It is time to work more efficiently for our city. Education truly is a difference between a good city and a great city. Know that our children appreciate you working to give them the best we have to offer. If we, the community, can assist in any way, I think that the attendance today lets you see that we're here and we're willing to help. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next person is Ford McFall.
Good evening. My name is Ford McFall, and I am speaking on behalf of the Warwick High School PTSA Board. The other board members present with me tonight are Heather Hill, Joan Hersicorn, Kathy Belfiore, and Melissa Sale. Our PTSA Board submitted a budget request to Brian Nichols for the 2018-19 school year. It asks that the school budget for next year include funding for 6 security officers at Warwick High School. We are here to urge you to vote in favor of a budget that provides for our request. Beginning with our first email to you, dated October 27th of last year, we have been pursuing improved school security for Warwick High School. Here's why. Over the last few years, the security staff at Warwick has been reduced in number. In 2013, the school was served by 7 security persons. In 2014, that number was reduced to 6. This year, in our school year, we have 5 security officers. Furthermore, one of our 5 security officers has accepted a job offer outside of Newport News Public Schools. He will be leaving Warwick at the start of spring break. Until his replacement is hired, our security force will drop to 4 people. Warwick has security challenges that are unique among the Newport News high schools. First, we are an open campus. Our students flow between 2 separate multi-story brick and mortar buildings and a cluster of learning cottages every class period. Second, we have parking lots at the front and back of the main building. Students park in both of those lots, and also students walk adjacent to the rear parking lot when moving between the buildings. Third, Our school's floor plan is outdated by today's standards, with poor sight lines for our security and slower response times when called to an emergency. And fourth, our student body is growing. We expect even more students to be attending Warwick next school year. Mr. Nichols has been in touch with us since receiving our request. He has confirmed that the funds are included in the budget that you have been presented. As the voting body that approves the budget, we want you to be aware of how seriously we take this request. We have collected the signatures of over 250 Warwick High School staff, faculty, parent, and PTSA members in support of our request, and Mr. Nichols has the hard copy of these signatures. We expect you to make sure that the safety of our students, faculty, and staff at Warwick High School, and all Newport News high schools for that matter, is a top priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Jody Dewson King, please come forward.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with all of you tonight. It's my third year with Newport News Public Schools. It's my 33rd year in public education. I have been a teacher of kindergarten, first grade, third grade, a principal successfully for 5 years, and a director of elementary programs. I currently am instructional assistant 4. In a daily atmosphere at our school, I and my peers are with a particular class or classes. However, and we do it willingly and lovingly, we are remediation specialists for students that have not been successful with the benchmark on the phonological awareness literacy screening with concept of word, letter recognition, letter sounds, rhyme. We also are resource teachers once a week for first or second grade classrooms because our school does not have enough resource spaces because of the growth of our population. I have been a substitute teacher so far this year in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fifth grade, and physical education. My salary just capped over $20,000 this year. I have this job because I love children. I love the children at our school, and I made a conscious decision to get out of the higher stressed situation. My last baby is 16 years old and a sophomore at Grafton High School, and I wanted to be there for her. But I do ask, as you look forward, and I know that you have many challenges with this budget, that you take all of those numbers very seriously. My paycheck, I believe, is consistent with the minimum paycheck of instructional assistants this year at the minimum salary. And I do believe my master's from William & Mary, my undergraduate degree from Roanoke College, and my 33 years of experience, and I'm not just speaking for myself, all of these friends and folks that come in and do these jobs every day, I do believe our experience should count for something other than the minimum salary. And I do wish you the best. If you have any suggestions for us of something we could do in regards to speaking with the City Council, I personally would welcome anything that you could share with me, because I don't want to go somewhere else. And I'm tired of people telling me that they're taking people at Lowe's. Thank you so much.
Next up is David Jenkins.
Hi, my name is Dave Jenkins, and I decided to speak today because I favor at least a 4% raise for teachers rather than the 2% proposed in the current budget. Our teachers work awfully hard in Newport News, and we have to pay our teachers competitively. I'm not an educator, nor is anyone in my family. I used to work for a home builder. I worked for a home builder for 16 years. In that time and time again, I saw people pay more for homes in areas with good schools and specifically avoid areas with bad schools. I believe that's a problem here in Newport News. I would like to see us have more people moving into our city. I would like to make sure that our property values remain high. There are so many city services that depend on property values and our tax base. And I think that schools play a huge role in that. And it's not just a matter of teachers versus the community. It's a problem for all of us when our schools don't perform as well as they could because they don't have the teachers they deserve. And also, I would like to say that the overall budget for these schools needs to be increased. Since 2013, the percentage of the city budget going to the schools has declined. It's gone from 27.4% to 24.5%. If that money was put in the schools, I think there would be money for things like wrestling and other extracurricular activities which help build character and discipline and help children on the pathway to success. And I think we would also have money for security and some of the other things our schools desperately need. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Voss.
Hello, School Board. Thank you for having the public hearing tonight. My name is Mary Voss. I'm a graduate of Newport News Public Schools, and I have worked as a classroom teacher for NNPS for the last 9 years. My daughter is a first grader in the school system, and my son will also attend Newport News Public Schools once he enters kindergarten. So it is as a community member, teacher, and parent that I am speaking today in support of School Board Member Douglas Brown's proposal for a 4% raise for NNPS teachers and staff. This proposal would, of course, require additional funding from City Council. A 4% raise would be wonderful not just for our hardworking teachers and staff, but also for the children of Newport News, who would greatly benefit from NNPS being able to better attract and retain quality educators and staff through more competitive pay. A 4% raise would also help address the teacher shortage here in Newport News. I want to thank the school board for standing up for Newport News Public Schools teachers and staff and having our backs for attempting to get new funding from City Council last spring for a 3% raise for teachers and staff. Unfortunately, City Council rejected the school board's request last spring for new funding for a 3% raise. Sadly, City Council has also steadily decreased the percentage of the city's general fund that the school system receives each of the last 5 years, from 27.4% of the city's budget in 2013 to 24.5% of the city's budget in 2018. This drop in funding percentages equates to over $14 million in lost funding for the school system this year. In addition, City Council has allocated only 22% of its capital improvement budget to NNPS, whereas nearby districts such as Hampton, Williamsburg, James City County, York County, and Virginia Beach all allocate 30 to 50% of their capital improvement budgets to their school systems. The children of Newport News and the adults who work with them deserve better from City Council. I think the strong showing here before the school board tonight by Newport News Public Schools teachers, staff, and families, as well as by concerned community members and candidates for local offices, show that there is a lot of support behind Mr. Brown's 4% raise proposal. If the school board will support this proposal, we will have your backs like you've had ours. With more eyes on this issue now than last year, and with local elections for City Council and Mayor coming up on May 1st, I am hopeful that City Council may think twice before again declining to invest in our city's children. In closing, I ask you to please support the 4% raise proposal for NNPS teachers and staff. Thank you for your time tonight.
Heather Marcani.
Good evening. I'm Heather Marconi, and I'm here to also support the teacher pay raises. I want to thank Mr. Nichols for the 2% raise proposal, but also, like Ms. Voss said, I really think we could go a little higher, especially when we're negotiating with City Council. I think we should start, a little bit higher when you're working with negotiations, because they are, we need to, try to work together and find a middle ground in there somewhere. I've been a middle school teacher for going on 13 years now. I'm also a parent in Newport News. My daughter is starting kindergarten. And I also didn't know about the wrestling thing, but I also support that. I think that's great. I've been in middle school for a long time, for almost 13 years now. So I think that would be a really great program too. So I did just want to say I want to support the at least a 4% raise for Newport News staff. So thank you very much.
Kenneth Carter.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm just up here to speak about getting funding for athletics for middle school leading to high school because of meeting that I attended last week with closing down the pipeline from school to prisons. So with the numbers that everybody showed last week was an increase, or excuse me, a decrease of kids not graduating, going to jail, so on and so forth, once they have positive interactions as far as activities. So with the gentleman with the wrestling, football, basketball, baseball, tennis, male or female, just anything, even entrepreneurship programs that can get the kids' mind off of other things that they have at home and work on the creativity side and discipline and so on and so forth. So y'all know, as far as the teachers, I'm not here to go against you guys, but as far as a coach, I feel we link together because we have the kids' best interests in mind. So when I run my program, I call myself a teacher on the grass. So that's my approach with football or baseball. As far as benefits, positive interaction with adults, males or females, because you don't know what that child has at home. They come to school for 6 hours, some time to, let off some steam for, a structured 2 to 3 hours. Go home, social skills development, interacting with kids, learning how to compete. Structure and accountability is something that's developed through athletics or anything that's structured. Also health. That's something that can be, neglected. Opportunity to develop experience and skills prior to going to high school, because some kids were bigger and they couldn't, participate in rec league sports, so middle school, so they didn't get opportunity to play a sport until high school. And kids that have anywhere from 6 to 8 years advantage on them, it shows on the field. That's pretty much it. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have a David Reed.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me speak to you guys tonight. My name is David Reed. I've been a teacher here in Newport News for over 18 years at Woodside High School. I've greatly enjoyed my whole career here and working with the students. I've been a coach for 13 years, so I've seen a lot of different ways to kind of interact with students. I'm here tonight to just speak for really the teachers and also the educators in Newport News. I'd like to really kind of push, if I could, for anywhere from 3 to 5% increase for school educators. I realize a lot of this is outside the school board's control. City council and the council has been, this board and council have been less than encouraging working with each other. And I like to try to see more incentives put in the programs for not just coaches, but for teachers, and also keeping teachers here longer. That's one thing I've seen a lot in the last 10 years. I've seen teachers that started 18 years ago stay. The last 4 or 5, they go away. They've been leaving. I mean, I've been a lead teacher now for 3 years, and I've had a turnover of a bunch of teachers. And I know a lot of it's because the extra work we put on now, but also I think it's something that they see a greener pasture somewhere else. That's not always true, but I would like to see more kind of incentives given to teachers to appreciate them and show that appreciation. And I agree with what the lady said behind us. If we could actually start at a higher rate, just kind of try and push for 3 to 5 and then try and negotiate with City Council, because that's one of the things I have decided that I want to run for City Council for Central District because of that reason. Teachers matter, education matters, and that's what I want to focus on. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Chantel Creekmore. That's it right there.
Good evening. esteemed members of the school board. It's my pleasure to stand before you today and also before the citizens of Newport News. My name is Santiel Creekmore, and I am running for mayor. But I'm not here as a candidate tonight. Tonight I'm here as a parent. One of the most important things to all of us in Newport News is our children. They're a gift to us. They're our treasure. They're our most precious resource, and they're our future. And the things that the teachers do for us cannot be compensated enough. So I'm an advocate for teachers being fully compensated for their services, and there's a reason why. When I get up in the morning and I go to work, I leave my children in the hands of the teachers. I trust the teachers to give my children the tools that they need to survive and work towards a better life. There's two ways that we can get a better life in this world. It's one, to be born wealthy. The other is to educate ourselves and work hard. I was not born wealthy, but I have learned to educate myself and work hard, and I try to impart that same hope in my children's lives, just like all the others here in Newport News. It's critical, in my opinion, that we continue to reward the teachers who we trust with our children over 6 hours a day, who we trust to shape their minds and to give them a chance at the future. That's why I ask that you all continue to support the teachers of our community. We need them. They're important to our future. They're important to our children. And if you need help getting the raise you want, I encourage you to come out on May 1st and vote for me. Thank you for your time.
Are there any additional speaker cards? Are there any additional speaker cards for the budget? There being none, we will proceed. The board will now hear public comments on the proposed Huntington Middle School rezoning plan. And Ms. Tilley, will you please provide us a brief overview?
Hunter, Vice Chairman Ashby, board members, Mr. Nichols. This evening I would like to provide a reminder of our rezoning proposal for Huntington Middle School. We proposed that our current 6th and 7th grade students at Huntington would transition as a student body for a school within a school model at Heritage High School. We would take members of the current Huntington staff with us to maintain consistency and help with the adjustment to the new building. We are proposing that our current 5th graders who would be zoned to go to Huntington Middle School, that they be reassigned to Crittenden and Hines Middle Schools based on their address. This results in approximately 80 students to both Crittenden and Hines. And this map shows the proposed rezoning for next school year. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So at this time, we have cards. We'll hear the hearing for Huntington Middle School rezoning. And first up, we have Bishop Joseph Gurley. Is that correct?
Hello. My name is Joseph Gurley. I'd like to say good evening to the school board, to the dignitaries here, to the Huntington alumni, and to all the Huntingtonians, to the people that are here and those that are watching. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm here for a proposal that we will keep Huntington School open, but build a new school. Build a new school right there in the same spot. And not only that we build a new school, but the students that are going there, that we will keep them there in the new building, in the new part of the building. I'm not asking you to move them, but to keep them there in the new part of the building until this board could come together and make a decision. I know you see it the same way that I see it. That's why you're sitting here tonight, to hear from us. The best proposal is for the education of the students at Huntington. Now, I heard someone say that it was costly to rebuild Huntington or to remodel it. It would be costly to close it down, because you can't put a price on what come out of Huntington. It had been the root core of the community ever since Carla P. Huntington had invested in it. So you just take a look around you and see what come out of the community. If you close down Huntington, you close down the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Reverend James Brown.
Good evening, school board. Good evening, citizens that are here this evening. My concern also is the elimination of Huntington Middle School. When the budget proposal was mentioned this afternoon, I didn't hear anything in there about funding for Huntington. Over the years, the school board has requested money for Huntington. And somehow between the CIP, the development and the engineering development components of the school board, money has been taken out of the budget. A few years back, Ms. Cherry and Mrs. Woodbury voted against the budget because those things weren't in there. Mr. Staljo was kind of confused also at the way that they held the meeting prior to having a joint meeting, which they were supposed to have. They didn't have the joint meeting. They voted prior to it. The last joint board meeting that we had this year, the mayor said it was your fault because you didn't put the money or you didn't put the proposals in to have the school maintained. He blamed it on you. But I went back and did research over the years, and I see where you guys have put in anywhere from $160-some million for the school and got half of it. In some cases, you didn't get any of the money. Put $14 million in one case. By the time it got back here for you to receive the money, they cut it out. So the problem, I don't think, is with the school board. I wish you guys would continue to put it in, the money in there. And somehow we got to force the city to understand that our children are more important than these economic development programs that they're putting on, which have lost money over the years. And the last thing that I don't understand in reading these reports, I see back a couple of years ago where our city manager stepped down from his position and he still retained his benefits. School board, the city council members stated that he did a good job. Some of them stated that they hated to see him go. But he did a debacle up there at that airport that cost this city millions of dollars. And that's not the only thing he has done. Now the problem is, if they can find money for all these other projects, why can't they find money to keep Huntington open? It's not a priority to them. They want to do something else with that land and that property. And we, the citizens, feel that those kids at that age need to stay in their community where they can be nurtured by the community and helped by the teachers and, as they say, some of the coaches. Everybody's not going to school to be a computer person or this and that and other. We need trades in that school that the kids can receive in the school and not go to Votech to get them. But the trades need to be set up in the school. So by the time these kids go to the next level, they'll have some skills that will help them in their future. Education is about preparing people for the future. And that's what the school is about. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up is James Lovett.
Good evening, school board members, Mr. Nichols, people of Newport News, or wherever you live. My name is James Lovett. I am retired military, 20 years and 17 days in the U.S. Army. I've been here and been there and been everywhere. My thing is that we need to tear down Huntington Middle School and rebuild it. It's very important that that school stays in that community. because when little Johnny has to go to Hines Middle School or Crittenton, and he lives across from 3401 Orchard Avenue, and he gets sick, and his mother may not have the money to catch a cab or catch a bus to pick little Johnny up. Little Johnny ends up sick in the clinic, because I've been there in different schools where little kids are sitting there all day waiting on their parents to pick them up. Okay, that's not fair to little Johnny and Sally Ann. Okay, I have here a petition here over 250 some odd signatures, and more are coming on email, and it states, the undersigned petitioners are alumni of Huntington High Middle School and concerned citizens who respectfully request that the Newport News City Council and the Newport News School Board take the following actions with respect to Huntington Middle School, located at 3401 Orchard Avenue, Newport News, Virginia. Number one, the Newport News School Board shall immediately begin the process of studying and designing Huntington Middle School into a state-of-art 21st century school that will provide the students with a 21st century educational opportunities and prepare them for a 21st century workforce. Such actions shall take place now in 2018 instead of a year from now. Number two, that the study, designing, and rebuilding process and the students at Huntington Middle School remain in the school, housed in the portion of the school completed in 1964 to 65 and in areas not affected by construction. Instead of using $2.8 million allotted for the Newport News City Council for design, it can be used to maintain a clean, safe, quality environment for the students doing construction. Number three, the Newport News School Board shall immediately provide the necessary documentation to the Newport News City Council in order to attain immediate emergency funding for the Newport News City Council to rebuild Huntington Middle School. And number four, the Newport News City Council shall allot an appropriate immediate emergency funding to the Newport News School Board for the purpose of rebuilding Huntington Middle School. The action shall be taken in a manner that comports with completing the rebuilding of Huntington Middle School within 2 years of the closing of 2018 to 2019. And that's all I have to say.
Ernest Thompson.
Good afternoon, school board members, superintendent. My name is Ernest Thompson. I live in the east end of Newport News, and it's about Huntington Middle School. But let me preface my statement with, when I attended a work session where the school board and the city council was together, I left there in a gasp. I said, wow. It was like, it was the first time you guys had ever met. And you were talking, and the city council said, we got to do this more often. And I'm standing there and said, well, if you guys don't talk to each other, how can we get anything done? The bottom line is, we the citizens, the advocates, those that are talking about Huntington Middle School, feel like a ping pong ball. We come to the city council said, okay, pop, and they sent us to the school board. Well, you know, the school board didn't send us anything. We go to the school board said, pop, they sent us back to the city council, said, well, the city council won't fund anything. And so we're caught in a I'll be dog if you do, I'll be dog if you don't situation. And so having attended that work session, it has come to our belief that some kind of way we need to speak to the city council. I know Mr. Nichols, Mr. Ashby, and Mr. Ely have attended numerous sessions and have been very supportive of what we're talking about. And I'm talking about rebuilding a 21st century school. We know the school is pretty much dilapidated, and we can get into the specifics of it. But the citizens got together, and every time we go to the city council, here they go. Well, they all didn't send us, so I know I specifically asked Mr. Ashby, I asked Mr. Nichols, Mr. Ely, They're 100. I said, well, what about the school board? Is the school board behind building a 20? Of course they are. I said, yeah, right. But when we get to the city council, it's a different thing. They always send us back. So it is my request and our request, and I gave a document to the clerk. All this states, plainly and simple, is question, are you 100% in favor of replacing the current Huntington Middle School with a brand new 21st century state-of-the-art middle school now at its current location? Your answer is yes by affixing your signature beside your name. And every one of your names is on there. And that, when we go to the school, now when we go to the city council, it's no more going through all of this, because I'm going to hold this document up in front of them. It says the school board supports it. Now we want to know, are you going to fund it? Election time is here. We'd like to know. If she has it, I hope you all will sign it. Thank you.
Rodney Hunter.
Mr. Chairman, Superintendent, members of the school board, I agree with Elder E. Thompson, Lovett, and all of the persons who spoke about making sure that we have a Huntington Middle School at 3401 Orchard Avenue, and we do not want the students to be moved out. And we want that commitment from you. And if you commit to do that, we are willing to fight the battle with you at City Council. And I think it's very important. I'm very disappointed in this so-called democracy where you elect officials and then many of them don't listen to the community. But I want to say the community is here. You got petitions. We are serious about keeping that school there. It's been important in this city of Newport News. It's almost like this is one of the only cities I've seen that doesn't respect this history. Every other historical area is fixed up. Downtown Newport News, the Newport News city proper before it was annexed with Warwick. I mean, we should respect that and try to make that what it ought to look like. Something representative of East End people, as we used to call it, where Huntington played a major part in our lives. And we are thankful for Huntington, and we don't want to forget our roots and where we came from. And some of you may not be as old as Ernest Thompson. but history is important. And let me say it was something wonderful. I saw Miss Mann, I think one of our teachers from Huntington, walk in here tonight. Where is she? Miss Mann walked in here, one of our great teachers, and we're thankful for her. It means so much to her to see this school survive. And if I can, if all the Huntington people would stand, it would, I think, would be something too. So I just want to come to echo, to ask you to do that which the citizens and community ask. And then this is democracy at work. And then let us fight for the funding that's needed. Too many times we've been denied, we've been put aside, but this can't be done at this time. Thank you.
Cheryl Barnstead.
Good evening. Thank you for the chance to speak to you tonight. My name is Cheryl Barnstead, and I'm a parent of a Huntington student. I have a rising 8th grader, so she will be part of this proposal and in deciding what we're going to do with our students for next year. But next year can't be all that we're focused on at this point. But I want to thank you for the efforts that you've put into this, the meetings, the time you've taken, especially Mr. Nichols, and the efforts that you all have made to hear us and to hear our concerns and trying to make as many accommodations and give us the things that we would like to see for our kids to the best ability that you can. We really do appreciate the effort. I just would really like to say, however, that can't, taking care of the emergent need and focusing on what we need to do with our kids for next year to keep them safe and healthy and all those things cannot be the end of the Huntington story. We have to do more. There is a very great need for our students in that part of town to have a school there. They shouldn't have to travel all over the city. They don't deserve that any more than the other kids do. Other kids have schools in their own community. Why should our kids not have that? So I'd just like to say that, of course, our community, our students, their education are not an afterthought just because they're down on that end of town. And they don't deserve to be treated that way. They deserve the same budgetary considerations, the same resources, and the same respect that the other school districts get. Thank you.
Now, at this time, are there any additional speaker cards? Are there any additional speaker cards? Are there any additional speaker cards? There being none, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I move to close the public hearing.
Second. You heard the motion, you heard the second. Time for the question. There being none, Ms. Hinton, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Brown.
4.
Mr. Ely.
4.
Mr. Harris.
4.
Mr. Hunter.
4.
Ms. Simons. 4. Mr. Starchill.
4.
And Mr. Ashby.
4.
Motion to close public hearing is approved 7-0.
Okay. On behalf of the school board, we thank each of you who came out and provided us with your comments this evening. The board will consider your concerns as we prepare to vote on each proposal, which will occur at our regular session next Tuesday, March the 27th. At this time, does any of the board members have anything they would like to add?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank everyone that came by tonight and all of the speakers. I'm not originally from the state of Virginia or Newport News, but I understand the significance of Huntington School. I grew up in a small town, Holly Springs, Mississippi. So I was always told the importance of education, but not just that, but community is everything. I've talked to a lot of parents from Huntington, even though I represent the North District. I've talked to my peers, Mr. Ely, about Huntington. The bottom line is, yes, we do need to keep Huntington there. That area do deserve a new school. We have a school on Fort Eustis, Virginia, that is attended by military individuals, military families. I'm also ex-military, retired Army. The bottom line is they need to support, Mr. Chairman, and I just want to let everybody know that you have my support because I understand what the land is needed for. Everybody know what the land is needed for or wanted for, okay? But the bottom line is you have my support that we support Huntington, not just the alumni, but for the kids. Thank you.
Mr. Ely.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out today. Your voices was definitely heard, and we do have to start working together to make sure the needs of the community is put first. It's not about being elected as elected official. It's being about listening to your citizens and giving the citizens in the community what they need. I definitely am 100% support of the 5% raise for our teachers. I think our teachers work. And not just our teachers, our bus drivers, our custodians, everyone. They work so hard to keep our schools clean. They work so hard to make sure our kids are safe. Everybody have an important role in Newport News Public School System, and they all deserve to be paid top dollar to keep them happy. We cannot continue to lose teachers every year because they cannot afford to pay. You know, it's hard out here. And we need to make sure our teachers are paid top-notch dollar so they can survive in this world and won't have to get 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. I'm also definitely 100% support of Huntington Middle School. We need a Huntington Middle School in the area. Arts is is an art school. Our children all across the town, they love the arts. I'm an advocate of the arts. As well as an art school in Huntington. When we get our new Huntington Middle School, I'm also in support of a career technical training center too, to bring back our trades in the East End community. We're going to continue to do great things in Newport News. We're going to continue to work together as a team in Newport News, and we're going to continue to be one city. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I continue with our comments, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize one of our city councilwomen, Ms. Sharon Scott's here with us. Okay. Ms. Ramirez, do you have any comments?
Sure, yeah, sorry, I didn't think we were doing comments tonight. But I would like to say I was part of the effort, not as a school board member last year, or as the student representative, as some of you may know, but as a citizen like you guys. I went to a city council meeting and I said, hey, you know, I think that this is what a lot of our students feel, and I think this is what a lot of our citizens feel, and it's really important to us. Sorry, I forgot to breathe. And what I got was, oh, well, thank you for coming out. Thank you very much. We appreciate your input. But at the end of the day, it wasn't necessarily enough. And I know that there was pressure from the school board to provide these raises. I know that there was a lot of support within the community. And I don't want that effort to stop. So I really appreciate everyone here for continuing, for not giving up, for not, you know, letting it kind of slide or forgetting about it, letting it go to the back of your mind. I really think that progress is going to be made, and that this, especially with election season coming up, that this could be the year that we really make a difference. So, thank you.
Mr. Brown?
Yes. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I really want to thank the community for encouraging the board to adopt this raise. This has been something that I think that it's hard fought, and the battle is far from over. But the first part of it is your participation. And so I really am very appreciative and very thankful for all of you who came out tonight to support the adoption of a raise for our teachers and staff. I think it's desperately needed. I've talked about this a lot, about us being competitive with the other divisions that are around us. There is a shortage in Virginia for educators. There's a shortage all over the country, but particularly in Virginia. And so to have the best school division that we can possibly have, we're going to have to remain competitive. And that's why I've been so vocal about having staff increases every single year. And like I always say, this year will be no different. We will get that increase. As well, I want to thank the folks in the wrestling community for coming out and providing your support over multiple years. To push middle school wrestling forward. I think that it's a worthwhile and very a great activity for all young people, girls and boys, to participate in to help them grow. And we know that the impact of youth development has a real impact on our graduation rates and our dropout rates. We get a lot of value for the dollars that are put in. Looking into it personally, it's only about $18,000 a year to have middle school wrestling. So from where I'm sitting at, I don't see any impediments. I don't see any reason why we're not doing it right now. And then to the community member, I believe is Mr. Thompson, who came up, I'm very happy to sign your petition to go after Huntington. Right now, I voted for Huntington every single year I've been on this board for funding for Huntington. This year, I'm very happy to do that and advocate for Huntington right now. Because it is critically important to all of us to have 8 middle schools in our city. That is critically important. It is difficult to have a division with only 7 middle schools. That is a challenge. And so regardless of where you live in the city, this affects all of us. And I think it is critically important that education be a higher priority in our city. So I'm on for whatever petition or wherever I can lend my voice to this cause. The school board voted. We put it in the budget. I'm happy to vote for anything that we can put Huntington up again to be considered right away for emergency funding or wherever we can get funding for Huntington because it's really critically important that we have 8 middle schools and that we have a Huntington Middle School in our city. It's our arts magnet, and it's an important, critical piece of our education portfolio. All right.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Simons?
also want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. You know, as for Huntington, I agree with Mr. Brown. I have been supporting it every year I've been on the board. I think we need better communication with City Council, because what's happened is we've had our capital proposal that we've given to City Council. It goes to the city manager, and I believe the City Council members haven't seen it. So I have a new plan, which is I'm going to take the proposed capital improvement budget and I'm going to give it, physically hand it to my City Council member, and I'm going to ask them to read it. Because I don't want to hear, oh, we didn't know that you've been requesting money for Huntington since I've been on this school board. We have been requesting money for Huntington. So that said, I just want to finish up to also say I support a 4% teacher raise. And I have to say that we have the most innovative teachers. We have the most innovative programs in this region. And we may have some challenged kids, but we love those kids. And we are going to work with them and make sure they have the best education possible. So, you know, I'm kind of tired of people labeling these schools as a bad school. No. These schools have challenges, but there's no bad school. There's no bad kids in this district. Thank you.
Mr. Starr.
Well, I'd like to tell a story that gives us some hope. And when I got on the school board 8 years ago, I got onto the Capital Improvements Committee, and we started talking about 2 new schools. And one of them we started talking about was First Up, and it was replace Magruder. And the other one was let's start talking about what Huntington needs. And Mr. Ashby and Mr. Hicks, who was on the school board at that time, worked through committees over a number of years, and I think a lot of people in this room were involved in those discussions. And a miraculous thing happened. The Magruder project went right into discussion. It painlessly went into a capital plan with the city. It smoothly, without any kind of friction, turned into a project. Didn't happen as fast as I'd like to see it. And we opened it up a year and a half ago. Nobody broke a sweat. No controversy. Nobody had to come to this podium and demand that it be built, because we were doing the right thing. And it happened. Huntington has become a little more difficult. And I know that there's a lot of emotion here. And actually, I think this emotion is good. It is really good when a community can stand up and express itself. So thank you, not only for tonight, but all the work over the last couple of years. What happened so quietly with Magruder made it look easy, and I think to those who were looking on, maybe they didn't realize they'd have to get behind something. But with Huntington, you're going to have to get behind it, and it can happen. And I've been on the school board long enough, and I've sat with the folks who manage the finances, and I've talked with the leadership. We can do anything in Newport News that we put our minds to. And this is easy for us to do as long as we just start putting priorities forward and start working towards a goal. First, folks are going to have to seriously want to talk about it. Once we get past that, we'll make it happen. So let's get together and make this thing happen. That's my attitude.
Vice Chairman Spassky.
Well, good evening. Just thank you so very much for coming. We not only heard your comments, but we listened to your comments. Difference between hearing and listening. You basically hear with your ears, but you really listen and absorb with your brain. And that is something that that the school board members and the superintendent and all of us on the senior staff here have consistently and constantly done not only tonight, but through the duration of this entire process. My comments will be brief and they'll be direct. I'm going to go ahead and echo some things that Shelley Simon said. First of all, this school system is doing some remarkable and incredible things. We have a 93.4% on-time graduation rate. We have a 2.2 dropout rate, 2.2%. Last year, 49 children in the city of Newport News, for Newport News Public Schools, did not graduate. 20 of them were in juvenile detention. So the numbers, while people are entitled to opinions, and it's election time, there'll be all kinds of things out there. But the facts are the facts. The reason why the graduation rate is so astronomically high is the work that the educarers do in the school system. Dr. Jerome Barber has coined the phrase educarer is more powerful than educator. And educators come to school and they prepare lesson plans, they teach children, the educators, and the children go home. Educarers come to school, they prepare lesson plans, but they understand some other things. Why the school system has done or had so much phenomenal progress. What do? They understand instruction, they are innovative, they see the insight over the eyesight of children, because eyesight is what you physically see, but insight is what could possibly be. That's what insight is, and that's what our educators have been demonstrating in our school system. And it's not just simply the teachers, it is the bus drivers, it is the instructional assistants, it is the custodians, the cafeteria workers, psychologists, social workers, all in a holistic, eclectic effort. That's why this has happened. So when we look at asking for raises, we can justify it. The numbers justify why we're seeking a raise for all of our educators that consistently and constantly go above and beyond. That is the facts because of the numbers. So we talk about in reference to graduation rate, dropout rate, the amount of students on second grade reading at grade level or above, the achievement gap closing, all 6 high schools fully accredited. All those type of things are because of the work in which our educators have been doing. Yes, they should be compensated. What is valued drives a decision-making process. Organization, group, that's what it is. That's what it is in that situation and setting. So here we are in the situation and setting, and we know exactly what needs to be done in reference to teacher raises, in reference to Huntington Middle School. I live 12 blocks away from Huntington Middle School. 12 blocks away. So my reasoning and justification is not only is the school that's close to me, but it's a school that's in my community. And I understand the essentiality of educating children in our community. I understand about 21st century learning, or this board understands about 21st century learning. We understand about trades and vocational. We understand that the concept is a college, career, and citizenship ready. We fully understand that, but we've got to be very honest, it does take funding. So this school system, and I said at a town meeting Thursday, I will not let anybody badger or say anything that the superintendent that we had before consistently and constantly went after getting funding for Huntington Middle Schools and for the entire school situation system. That's what Dr. Ashby Kilgore did. She was innovative. She was creative. She saw the essentiality of building a Discovery STEM Academy. And that's why that occurred, and that's why that happened. So when we look at things fully, eclectically, holistically, we see the vision where Newport News Public Schools is going. So I say all of that because people, okay, it's election season. No. I believe each and every single person up here is an elected official, but I also know that they are advocates of children. And being advocates of children is much more important than being an elected official. We are investing in our greatest resource. And ladies and gentlemen, our greatest resource are the children of Newport News. And once all of us develop that paradigm, citizens, city council, school board, once we eclectically develop that paradigm of thinking, then our children will be successful. A Huntington Middle School will be developed. Next on the block, we know that another school we need to begin to look at Warwick. We need to do that. We need to invest in children. And when we do that, our children will be successful. So I do thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me to present those comments.
Thank you. Well, we'll bring ourselves to an end here, and my word tonight is going to be yes. Yes, there are great things happening in Newport News Public Schools. Yes, the City Council and the school board definitely need to meet more often. Yes, this communication needs to continue. Yes, to a raise and bigger raises for our teachers and for our support staff. Yes, that we need to start talking about Warwick High School. We're going to have that same issue again. And yes, you have to invest. Yes to investing. As I said last time, no need to stand before a paying teller when no deposits have been made. No need to stand before that paying teller. These are our kids that we're investing in. This is all school. It's just an investment. And once this whole city, the school board, I know, those on city council, those who do the budgeting, when they understand about putting money where your mouth is. Putting money where your mouth is. Yes to a new Huntington. I already have the name. Huntington Middle School, Huntington Career Academy. I've got it. I've got the name. I've got the place for it, 3401. I've got it. So yes to all those things we've talked tonight. Yes to your continued support of this school board. And yes, that we need to get behind the city council and so that we can become one city. One city. Not one school board, not one city council, but one city. All the money comes from one pile. All that money that the city does comes from one pile, and that pile, we should spend it on ourselves first, and ourselves are our students. That's who we spend the money on. I spend my money on my two daughters. I'm quite sure each one of you spend your money on your child and daughter. Guess what? They are the city's children. They are the city's children. And we must say yes to invest. That's my comments for tonight. Okay. If there's no other business before the school board this evening, I need a motion to adjourn. We move.
Second.
You heard that we moved to adjourn? I don't need to call a roll. Is that correct? I consider this meeting adjourned.